What is up, guys? It's your boy StraightUpHippo, and today we're here for a dev Q&A. Now, before we go ahead and actually get straight into the video, I just want to say I was nervous as shit as I was doing this recording. Not only that, but we were actually in like a kind of a big hall area, so apologies if the audio isn't fantastic, but there's a lot of juicy information in this. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let you guys watch the rest of this interview. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, so stay safe and peace. What is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and today we are here at Gamescom for a developer Q&A. So I basically got you guys to ask a bunch of questions that you want to see Need for Speed related. Do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. I'm Yoni Rabinowitz. I'm a lead designer on the game.
So the first question's from Vertical, and his question is, what was the hardest part in development?
The hardest part in development? Oh man, just one part? I don't know. I think it started with us wanting to figure out how to play on this concept of day and night, and how to do that well without forcing people into playing a certain amount of night and a certain amount of day, and screwing up multiplayer and stuff like that. So I think where we landed there was really good. And I'd say there's been so much time put against getting open world cops back into the series, and open world cops in a way that's like really intense when you push the heat levels up. And I think that's paid off really nicely. That's probably where we've not struggled, but just had to spend so much time to get that right. And we hope, of course, we hope you guys think that it's right when it comes out. Yeah. So, and I hope you enjoy it. Yeah.
Do you think overall it was hard to balance what you guys wanted as a creative vision and what the players wanted in terms of the gameplay?
I think it's not so much a vision or it's an issue of compromising vision, but it's about figuring out what we can actually take on. If we try to take on too much, then all of it's just sort of crap at the end. Yeah. So it's figuring out what do we want to take, from different games in the franchise, from the whole history of the series, and also how do we bring them together in a way that's really cohesive, so it doesn't just feel like, oh, well, they took this bit of Underground or this bit of Most Wanted, but now it doesn't feel like a package. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
definitely. And this is the last question from Vertical. His question is, what is your personal single favorite new addition into the game?
Oh man, okay. I think it's probably engine swaps and exhaust tuning, but engine swaps in general.
Engine swaps is a bit of a fan favorite.
Yeah. And it's sort of been a little bit of an under the radar feature. Like a few people have been working to get that in and make that doable. And I think it's just so cool for me, like, just to be able to pick up any car and figure out how to get a totally different engine into it, and it sounds like the car that came from, or kind of a blend of the two. I think that's just totally part of my fantasy of building up an awesome street racing car, right?
On that note, because we haven't actually heard much about engine swaps specifically, this is kind of more of my question.
Okay.
So, if I had a Golf, would it be possible then to just put like a 918 hybrid engine in and take it all the way up? Like, is there limits to what swaps can be done on different cars?
Yeah, there are limits. So every car, we've basically picked which engines kind of make sense that you would be able to shoehorn in there. So it's not just every engine from every car in the game can be swapped into every other car in the game. It's still within the restrictions of what we think is kind of plausible, if that makes sense. But we're still playing with like exactly which engines can go into which cars and what bugs come from that and that sort of thing. So
would I be right in saying that if you wanted to go all the way through with a starter car from the start of the game to the end of the game, you could?
Yes, yeah. So same things like we've done before. All the cars should be able to compete. I mean, of course, we're working on balancing at end, but all of them should be able to get up to like really competitive levels. Yeah. And now you really need to engage with engine swaps to be able to get there. So you can't just take the kind of stock block of whatever car and think that, you're going to turn this into a supercar killer, which we've had in the past. Now you need to swap engine to be able to get the kind of power that car's going to need. But if it's a really light car, it's not going to need a V12 to be able to slay some V12s, right? Because it's really light and nimble.
Some logic behind it.
Yeah, exactly. So it is actually sort of the torque and characteristics of that engine put in that car. So it does actually kind of make sense in the simulation.
Well, the next one's a bit of housekeeping. Like, it's kind of something which...
All right, housekeeping.
It's a bit housekeeping. From Beeps, his question is, can we pause in alldrive?
Can we pause in alldrive, as in open world multiplayer?
Yeah.
So no, if you're playing open world multiplayer, you can bring up the map and you can bring everything up, but the game is not paused. Everybody else is still running around, your car's there too, but you're not forced to do that. So if you decide, you can play the game fully offline, or you can play it just with kind of all the asynchronous features, but not with other players, and then pausing works fine.
But you can just take it offline and then pause normally.
If you're offline, full pause, just like in Payback and as you'd hope.
Cool. Another question straight from Beeps is, will there be performance classes in game, and how would that work?
One thing we've done differently for this game is like the archetypes in Payback. We aren't really following that archetype model, so it's still some of the same extremes, but now it's based on what kind of performance customization you do. So what tires do you put on the car, what suspension do you put on the car, so you can get much more of a spectrum, and then you can play with that. And the other thing we've switched is, much like live tuning in the last game, now you can live swap parts on the car as well, so you can be out driving and then switch, so that you can get a better feel for one part versus the same setup with just one other part swapped. You can do that while you're out driving, which is I think nice, given that that's so important to setting the feel
and that's
of the car.
every single individual performance part on the car.
That's right.
The tires, the turbo, the engine, whatever.
Yeah, so if you've bought those parts already, you've basically got them in the trunk and you can kind of swap them out. But it's really a quality of life feature to be able to get a sense, because going back and forth, there's sort of a problem in 2015 when we didn't have live tuning when you were out, right? You have to go back into the garage, move the slider.
Hours
we
were
all
spent.
felt that pain, right? So now it's like applying the same logic to the parts.
The next question is from M3GTR, and his question is, how is the busting system going to work in the game? Is there impound strikes? How much of the money do they take away, etc.?
Okay, busting. When you get busted by cops?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still playing with exactly how much, but basically you lose a bunch of bank as a fine when you get busted. There's no impounds system, so you still get to go back. You'll go down to to zero bank, and then that's that. And then also a big part of night is about earning reputation.
Yeah.
So your heat that you end your night on is a multiplier, like a massive multiplier on the amount of reputation you've earned. And that's sort of like the fictional idea here is that getting busted is not very impressive to other street races in the city, but if you can cause and turn up a lot of heat and a lot of attention, then that's going to be super impressive if you get away with it. So the consequence of getting busted is you lose all of that as well if you don't make it back to a safe house safely.
This one's from Isaac, and his question is, what did you learn from Payback in 2015?
What did we learn? Like, just broadly, what did we learn?
What did you learn from the reception of the game, the way it was perceived, the positives, the negatives, all of it?
It's a really broad question, Isaac. I think in general, we've sort of refined around the idea that Need for Speed has to be about the street racer fantasy. It has to be about taking a car, building it up, taking it out into the world, and doing whatever the hell you want with it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a big part of why we focused on open world cops too, is because by having open world cops, it really sets the stage for the fact that everything you're doing is illegal, everything you're doing is illicit when you're pushing the limits of what you should be doing and that you shouldn't be doing in real life. So, I think that fantasy is so core, and I think that's been something that we've learned at Ghost Games through making different sorts of Need for Speeds, I guess it's fair to say. I don't know if that speaks to Payback in particular or 2015 in particular, but yeah, I guess we really hope that Need for Speed Heat is what fans are looking for.
Also, the street racer fantasy as a whole is something which,
as a whole package and as not too narrow of an experience, which I know is certainly something we felt was a criticism of 2015.
Some of these names are absolutely absurd. Odie Paneer asks, what's the music selection created towards in this game? Obviously, Payback had a more of kind of like a rock and roll-esque soundtrack. 2015 had more of like an EDM-based soundtrack. What's it like this time?
So we haven't announced the soundtrack at all yet, so I can't really talk to it, but we do know the soundtrack is super important to people and to us, to the vibe and feel of going out and street racing. So it's certainly something we've paid attention to.
Could you say like genres that are like there, or is even that off limits?
I don't know. I feel like, for me, when we've been vague about stuff, it makes people think like whatever they want to think. So they might think, oh, it's going to be terrible, or oh, it's going to be everything we could possibly dream. So I'd rather just say like, wait for it. Soundtrack list is coming, and then you'll get to know. Okay. But sorry,
I will
hold your
say
breath on that one.
I will say on the show floor there was actual soundtrack like playing. So I don't know, maybe
anything you've gotten access to, you can definitely talk about.
Maybe Reddit might know, but Just want to put that out there. So this one's from Cyber. Obviously, in the last game, neons were locked behind shipments. How's that now going to work? That's all gone.
Yeah, so neons and a bunch of the stuff that in Payback was called Vanity items is unlocked just from the start. So you get access to that just in the garage, and you just spend bank, which is the normal currency that you earn in day winning showdown races.
Yeah.
So you can just buy a lot of that stuff. And then some of that stuff is locked behind particular achievements, like for instance, finishing all the collectibles in an area of the world will unlock a certain pattern of neon or something like that. So you can hunt for like a specific one if you want that for your car and you want that, and then it's just unlocked, and you know there's no like one-offs. It's just now you can buy as many.
It's always a direct path to every vanity item in the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't want to mislead anybody about anything. I'm trying to think. A lot of it, what we've chosen to do is a lot of it is just unlocked because. A lot of that stuff is just super cool, and you want to get that on your car right away.
Get in there straight away, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So this one's from James, and he's asking what online multiplayer modes are going to be available. Obviously, SPEEDLISTS were in the last game. Obviously, online multiplayer free roam wasn't in the last game, but that has been confirmed already. So, can you speak about that?
Yeah. So for this game, for Need for Speed Heat, the focus has definitely been on the open world online multiplayer. So if you opt into that, which again, like we were talking about earlier, totally optional, then you're going to get effectively the same game and the same feature set with the layering in of multiplayer specific stuff. And of course, when you're out at night, you're going to run into other players having their own chases, all that fun stuff that we had, in Rivals and in 2015, where you have that open world multiplayer. So yeah, definitely look forward to that being there at launch for Heat.
Any word on SPEEDLISTS?
Any more SPEEDLISTS? So no, we won't have SPEEDLISTS at launch, but what you can do is when you're out playing, you can just pick whichever race you want of the entirety, go to that, and instead of just starting on your own, you have the option to invite everybody else on the server. You can also party up, so you can join a server as a group of friends, and then of course you're all going to be together, and then you can just invite those people, start it right away as soon as they accept the invite and stuff. So I think there's a lot more control in terms of just getting to race the races you want, whether it's day races, night races, whatever you want.
I think first and foremost, online free roam, it has to be at the base of the multiplayer.
Yeah, I think that was our opinion as well.
Yeah, like SPEEDLISTS, like for me anyway, a big PvP person. But regardless, I think at the bottom of it, you have to have that functionality available in online free roam. So obviously in Payback, that wasn't the case. Can you talk any more about like the stuff that's going to be in alldrive, or as far as like is that where we can go?
In terms of multiplayer,
Is there going to be like free bonus challenges, that kind of stuff, or is that stuff that you're still waiting on to announce?
Yeah, the focus definitely at launch is just on being able to run races together, being able to pick what race you want, invite either the party group or invite the entire server, get invited and be able to jump in with whoever else is on your server. And then, of course, all of the collectibles and especially the activities like, big jump ramps and all that stuff, you can just session and go wherever you want because we've got open world multiplayer again. So I think it's more about that. It's more about just messing around as a group of friends or going and doing whatever you want and just chasing after other players that you see on the streets.
Cool. This one's from Soul and CJ4567. Don't know what the numbers are for. And his question is, how serious is the story, and also how long is it in game?
Okay, so I think the tone of the story is like a little more serious than what we've done before, and it surrounds around this sort of like rogue group of cops going after the player as the player gets just sort of more famous within the city and within this event that's going on with the Speed Hunter Showdown. But we don't want to talk too much about the story because it's spoiler city. But yeah, and then what was the other question? How long?
How long is it?
So I don't know, and we're really tuning, what we want out of the progression system and the leveling. So you do have to level to unlock next missions in the story. Of course, you need to complete the previous one, and then also there's a lot of what we call driving stories. And I think I saw a question online about what are they talking about when they're saying driving stories. So that's just kind of what we call our side quests. So there's different characters that you can kind of dive in with, do a series of like drift trial events with that character, follow them out there, hear a little bit more about that character. Again, totally optional. And so if you're playing all of that stuff, it's going to take a lot longer. But you also earn a lot of reputation from doing that stuff. So you can use that to level and then unlock the next main thread mission. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to say a number because I think we're going to be tuning the leveling quite a bit still before we launch. So I don't know. But I think it'll be satisfying. But it is definitely
longer than Payback 2015. Same.
I think the thing that'll be, and 2015 was like split into the different tracks, so it's kind of hard to compare, but I think the thing is that what we wanted to do was create something that really wraps and give players a motivation for why are they here earning reputation, and why is that central to the story.
It's not quantity, it's more quality sort of thing.
I suppose, and I think it's also just connecting the especially compared to Payback, connecting what you're doing in the story and in the main missions to what you're doing outside of those specific missions, and making that feel like it's one experience, it's one game. The stuff that I'm doing on the streets of the city is connected to why the next thing is happening in the story, so it's all kind of part of that one experience. So that's going to be hours and hours and hours, for sure.
Right, this one's from Adrian, and his question is, did you focus on putting more new cars in the game or adding existing parts to current cars?
So I'm not sure exactly what the focus was in particular. I think you should actually talk to Bryn, if you get a chance, who's our vehicle director, and maybe he can get featured in the video as well. Yeah, he would definitely love to be on camera. Yeah, I think, there's certainly more parts that have been added. There's also like special editions of cars that we haven't had in the past. There's convertible editions of cars, and then of course some new cars too. And also bringing back the Ferraris. They needed a lot of updating, and we have a few new ones. So there's some good stuff there. So I think it's been kind of across the board.
Yeah. On that note, this is just like something I wanted to ask. We know that the legacy kits are coming back from the old games.
Okay.
To what detail have you gone with those? Is it ripped from the old games? Are they straight replicas? Are the sounds the same? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
I personally didn't work on the actual replicas, so I can't say the exact detail. I'm pretty sure they've all had to be made from scratch, but obviously paying great detail to like what the original was. But I don't know much more than that.
Okay.
Just want to say that later on in the day I did have a conversation with the vehicle director, and he did say that the kits are complete replicas. More specifically, he said that even the subwoofers in the back are the same, the exhausts are the exact same. They are literally the exact same.
This is just from me. I thought of this one.
Are we in your section?
This is my. We've run out of the community questions. This is just me now. Especially in the last game, other than speed cars and upgrading your cars, there wasn't really much for long-lasting players. Can you talk a bit about Endgame or like live service in that way, in terms of what's going to keep hardcore players coming back, maybe in the performance upgrade system?
Sure. So we definitely will have like a live engagement stuff going on after launch, but we'll talk more about that as we get closer and finalize some of those plans. What I can say is that the way we've laid out the performance upgrades for cars, I think is really good. It's really interesting. So when you finish the campaign, you're still not done leveling, and then you're going to continue to unlock new events, new difficulties of those events, and new upgrades for your car. So you're going to keep leveling past that and continue, and then when you hit max level, you still haven't unlocked all of the performance upgrades for cars. So those you're going to get by doing what's called high heat races. So I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with high heat races.
I don't think I've even heard about this.
Oh, all right.
This could be like new stuff.
So one thing we wanted to play with was the idea of when you're going out at night and building up your heat, that should get you access to stuff. So high heat races is one of the features that kind of plays with that dynamic. So you need to go out, you need to build up your heat, and only once you're at a certain heat level can you start these races. So it's really for like, for lack of a better phrase, the most wanted players on the server or the most wanted players in the world to be able to go and start. So then you go there, and it is basically like another race, but then cops are always cranked up in these races. And then by competing in those, then you'll be able to get unlocks for these last best parts, and those are called like Ultimate and Ultimate Plus. Okay. So you have to go and win those races, or at least compete in those races and be able to survive to the end to be able to get access to those. Once you've got them, then they're unlocked. Okay. But you're not going to be able to unlock them just from earning levels. And
unlocked across every car?
Yeah, it's not per car.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm right in saying that in the night mode, I think I heard this when we were at the behind closed doors, if you win a part in a race and then get busted, you lose that part.
That's right. So these are the parts that I'm talking about at high heat races. Yeah. So if you get those, then the idea is that now you're still got to carry that back, and just like your reputation, you've got to survive the night to be able to keep that. Yeah. So if you don't, then it's gone.
Our private lobby is going to be in the game at launch.
Private lobbies. Okay, so by that you mean, can I play on a server just with my friends?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But if we get a lot of requests for that, we could definitely consider doing it. You can party up and bring as many people as you want. I think our max player party size will be 8. So you could take over a large part of a server, but I don't think you can have just a private game.
And there's 16 players in a lobby at once, am I right in saying that?
That's right. So our servers will be 16 players between both day and night on that server.
And they can all be theoretically in a pursuit at the same time.
Theoretically in a pursuit. There are instances and stuff like that, so if you get too much stuff going on, you might not see each other. So it's still like kind of a sharded server. But yeah, you could all go to night, you could all go to the same area and meet up, and then, you know, hopefully everything's really good for that all working. I'm not on the tech side of those specific
Hopefully it runs at smooth 60.
Yeah, exactly.
So we know crews are going to be in this game.
Yes.
Is there any intention to add like crew v crew modes?
It's certainly something we've talked about, but we don't have anything at launch kind of on that front. What we have more is competition within the crew. So you can form a group of friends, which we know is always like super fun, to be able to have leaderboards against just your friends. So you can bring in as many people like as well within a plausible limit, and so you can have these great leaderboard competitions within the crew. But I think if people really engage with that and they're really interested, it's certainly something that we could go further with. Is being able to then compare your best people against another crew's best people or something like that.
And this is the final one. This one is a question that I've seen loads since all the Gamescom stuff's dropped.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if you can really answer it. I think it might be something more for Bryn. It's regarding track width.
Oh, yeah.
Track width. Is that something which can come back? Is that something which can be implemented further? Is it a deeper issue? Like, what's the stance on track width?
Definitely a Bryn question more than a me question. But I believe what you've got here at Gamescom is what we'll have at launch. But, you know, maybe we could look into what we can expand further.
Right, well, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Hope you guys are looking forward to it.